On November 16th, 1996, 36-year-old Sandra Mary Jacobson, also known as Sandy, who worked at the North Dakota Department for Transportation, and her 5-year-old son, John Henry Jacobson, were scheduled to have dinner with Sandy's mother, Bernice Grensteiner, who lived on the 100 block of University Drive in Bismarck, North Dakota. The pair arrived at the residence at approximately 7:30 p.m. after the 40-mile drive from their mobile home in Center. At the time, Sandy and John also lived in the trailer with Sandra's 16-year-old son from her first marriage, Spencer Nastrom. At dinner that night, Sandy appeared to be having some sort of mental health issues, and her mother suggested a visit to the hospital, to which her daughter agreed. But prior to this, Sandy went to purchase some gas for her 1990 Honda Civic vehicle. However, after departing from the gas station, Sandy and John mysteriously disappeared, and they were never seen or heard from again. Bernice grew concerned when her daughter and grandson failed to return, therefore reported them as missing persons at approximately 10 p.m. that night. Just hours prior to the disappearance of the mother and son, Sandy herself had actually called the Bismarck Police Department from her cell phone, sounding somewhat upset. She voiced her concerns that a loved one was in danger at the hands of a satanic cult, suffering abuse on a farm near to Center. Police were somewhat skeptical of these claims, not to mention they found it rather odd that she'd contacted them rather than her local police department, but according to Sandy, she didn't trust them. Because Center was out of the jurisdiction of Bismarck, they told her that there was nothing they could do to help. This was when Sandra's mother Bernice told authorities that her daughter had been experiencing some mental health issues at the time. Interestingly, also during the hours prior to when the mother and son vanished, Sandy dialed a life insurance company twice, the calls lasting approximately 10 seconds each. She also called a family member in a distraught state, telling them to, quote, kill themselves, before hanging up the call without saying her usual "I love you," which she had reportedly never done before. This led many to believe that a third party was present in the car where Sandy had made the phone calls from. Unfortunately, these calls were not placed into evidence by the police, and the recordings were subsequently deleted, this being just one of several failings made by law enforcement in regards to this case. Sandy also called her ex-husband, Vernon Nastrom, but he didn't answer the phone. He told the police he didn't know what his ex wanted, but he expressed some concerns about Sandy. According to Vernon, Sandy was, quote, obsessed with the end of the world, and during their marriage the pair had made a pact to jump off the Memorial Bridge should the end of the world arise. Vernon did say, however, that Sandy later stated that taking their own lives was a bad idea, as their souls would be condemned to walk the earth forever in purgatory. Vernon was cooperative with authorities and passed a polygraph test in relation to Sandy and John's disappearance, and he was never considered a suspect. Concerned about Sandy's mental well-being following these disturbing revelations, police decided to scour the nearby Missouri River, in case she had decided to take her own life and her son's by jumping from the Memorial Bridge into the brisk waters below. The following morning, November 17th, officers from the Burleigh County Sheriff's Office were dispatched to the river to search for clues. Meanwhile, Sandy's husband, Alan Jacobson, arrived back in North Dakota after returning from a business trip to Missouri. He had left on the morning of the 16th, the same day his wife and son disappeared. His flight landed on the 18th, and he immediately went to the police station to find out what was going on in regards to the situation. Alan told the investigators that things between him and his wife had been somewhat difficult in recent months, with Sandy also telling family and friends she was convinced that Alan was going to hand her divorce papers any day, telling them Jacobson was handling the situation, but it came to light that there was no divorce pending. They had merely been separated at the time and nothing more, according to Alan, the separation period being approximately 3 months by this point. According to Sandy's relatives, she was very anxious about the possible divorce, but even more so regarding a potential custody battle over their son, John. The couple were living apart at the time, but according to Alan, his wife became obsessed with the idea that he was having extramarital affairs, something which he blatantly denied, though later admitted to having at least one affair. Alan told police that Sandy had become somewhat unstable, with, quote, periodic religious obsessions. The week prior to her disappearance, she even appeared to be somewhat unhinged, Alan claiming she was, quote, glossy-eyed, getting excited, was shaking, was trying to get up and leave, but he stopped her and helped calm her down. Alan also told authorities that on the morning he left for his business trip, Sandy allegedly called him at 6:15 a.m. and told him to recite the Lord's Prayer for their son. Police then tried to verify Alan's alibi. He claimed to have left North Dakota at around 8 a.m. on Saturday the 16th of November, riding with 6 others in a van travelling to Missouri. He then got a hotel room on Sunday the 17th at Westport Hotel. It was unclear where Alan had stayed on the night of the 16th, though the drive to Missouri would have taken around 15 hours or so. He may have simply slept in the van, but investigators received a letter from Jacobson's co-worker claiming the two drove to St. Joseph, Missouri, where they stayed the night before travelling to St. Louis on the Sunday. It was at the hotel where Alan received word that his wife and son were missing, according to the co-worker. Police have never been able to 100% verify Alan's alibi. He told them, however, that he and his wife were going to reconcile and take couples counselling, but no records showed the pair ever attending such appointments. On November 17th, the day after Sandy and John vanished, her vehicle was found at the Centennial Beach parking lot near to the Missouri River in Bismarck. The driver's side door was left wide open with the keys in the ignition. Also within the vehicle was Sandy's purse on the front seat, which had not been touched, and a receipt from a convenience store. Nor Sandy or John were anywhere to be seen, and it was presumed that they either jumped from the bridge or were swept away by the strong currents of the river. The riverbanks were subsequently scoured by police multiple times with the help of cadaver dogs, diving teams, and helicopter teams. During one search in May of 1997, authorities found a shoe by the riverbank, which Alan believed may have belonged to his son, but other family members denied that it belonged to him, as the shoe was far too large for a 5-year-old. Extensive searches of the river were conducted, but strong currents and severe windy weather conditions hindered the search efforts significantly. The vehicle was subsequently impounded, but since foul play was not suspected at this point, the vehicle was not forensically analysed. Therefore, no fingerprints, blood, or any other potential clues were found. Meanwhile, Alan Jacobson went to Sandy and John's trailer in Center, where he strangely removed most of their belongings from inside, including clothing and perishable goods. Rather oddly, prior to this, nor afterwards, police never searched the trailer for any clues in regards to Sandy and John's whereabouts. Sandy's 16-year-old son, Spencer, who also resided at the trailer park, was also questioned by police and told them that he saw his mother's wedding rings in a change container at his stepfather's home just days after the vanishing. Spencer found this strange and disturbing. He didn't know why Alan would have his mother's wedding rings, but he couldn't remember whether Sandy was wearing her rings around the time she vanished, as it wasn't something he noticed. Police questioned Alan about this, and he claimed Sandy had left the rings at his home following their separation. This, of course, cannot be verified. Sandy's family told authorities that she kept a detailed journal, which she filled in daily, but Alan claimed he didn't find it in the trailer and the police never located it. Could this journal have possibly held vital clues as to what happened to Sandy and John? Many questioned why Alan took items from the trailer in the first place, but his response was that they were married, and what was hers was also his. The journal is one piece of the puzzle which could shed light on Sandra's relationships, her thoughts and her feelings leading up to her disappearance, perhaps even detailing any conversations she had with her husband, such as any possible plans to divorce. It seems convenient for Alan that the journal mysteriously disappeared. He claimed he never even knew the journal existed, which seems highly unlikely here, especially when you consider her close family and friends knew of its existence and that she kept it under her mattress. Family members also told authorities that in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, Sandy spent many late nights talking over the phone to Alan, many of which left her in tears and without sleep, but unfortunately records couldn't verify this. Over the years, Alan became uncooperative with authorities, more specifically with the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children, who requested photographs of Sandy and John and his DNA to help create age progression images, but Alan did not supply the photos according to them and refused to give them a DNA sample. He also refused to take a polygraph test. Sandy's family, on the other hand, were more than happy to fulfill these requests. They wanted to do anything which could help. The investigation into Sandy and John Jacobson's disappearances continued in the following months, with law enforcement continuing to question family and friends, and another extensive search of the Missouri River being conducted. But despite various tips and leads being called into authorities, including alleged sightings, the trail went cold, and the case was eventually declared inactive by February of 1999. By 2001, Alan Jacobson, being the sole beneficiary for Sandra's will due to the fact he was still married to her, received a $30,000 payout from her life insurance policy. Spencer, Sandy's eldest son, didn't get a say in how the assets were to be divided, due to the fact that the pair were still married. Without a divorce, the spouse would be entitled to everything. Many theorized that Sandra, during a mental health episode, killed her son before taking her own life after she realized what she had done. However, this is purely speculation, with no evidence to support it. Despite her mental health issues, Sandy's family firmly believe that she never would have brought harm to her beloved son, John, nor would she have done anything to hurt Spencer, to whom she was incredibly close to. Others, of course, speculate that Alan is somehow responsible for Sandy and John's disappearance, but despite the evidence against him, nobody has ever been arrested or charged in relation to this case. Police simply don't have enough evidence to point towards foul play, but despite this, the disappearance of Sandra and John Jacobson remains unsolved. Both were declared dead sometime after they disappeared that cold November night in 1996. Sandra's 16-year-old son Spencer was subsequently sent to live with his grandparents following the disappearance of his mother and his brother, but unfortunately in 2005 his father Vernon became a victim of homicide. He was run over by his own car in Tuttle, North Dakota, which was driven by an unknown assailant, and Vernon was left for dead in a ditch by the roadside. His cause of death was determined to be blunt force trauma to the head. His case also remains unsolved, but there's no evidence to indicate that Vernon's death is connected to the disappearance of Sandy and John. Sandy was a woman who loved the holidays, truly cherishing every moment she spent with her family. John was a typical, happy 5-year-old boy who adored superheroes. Their family has never forgotten them, nor their friends, and they continue to hold on to the hope that someday the truth will out, and one way or another, Sandy and John will be found. Sandy was 36 years old when she vanished, of Caucasian origins with brown hair and green eyes, standing at 5 feet 6 inches tall and weighing 145 pounds. She wore glasses and her ears are pierced. She was wearing a blue sweatshirt, a blue pair of jeans, a pair of lace-up brown shoes, and a blue down-filled jacket when she was last seen. She had been showing signs of mental illness prior to her disappearance. If Sandy is still alive today, she would be 62 years old. Her youngest son, John, was 5 years old when he disappeared alongside his mother. He is also of Caucasian origins, with light brown hair and brown eyes, standing at 4 feet 8 inches tall and weighing approximately 75 pounds. When he was last seen, John was wearing a hunter green winter coat with blue cuffs, though what else he was wearing is unfortunately unknown. If John Jacobson is still alive today, he would be 30 years old. 26 years have passed, and what truly happened to Sandy and John Jacobson remains a mystery. Much of the information in this case only came to light in mid-2022 when the police files were obtained by the Forum News Service, which revealed several failings by police in regards to obtaining information which could have been crucial in this case. A 4-part podcast with The Vault and articles on the inforum.com website shed a new and crucial light on this case. We have linked the articles below for anyone who wishes to delve into this case further. The articles and podcast episodes are very insightful, and we highly recommend you go and check them out. Anyone with any information regarding this case are urged to either contact Trisha Taurinskis by emailing ttaurinskis@forumcom.com or by calling Bismarck Police Department on 701 223 1212.